Welcome back, guys. Before I continue this video, I would like to apologize to you guys that I have been busy with some side project, so I was not able to move faster about this series, and I have received a couple of comments from some of my subscribers that I should try as much as possible to continue. So I'm back again for this series. So before we continue in this video, I would like to remind you that in the previous video that we did, we created a user component to register. That is a register component, and everything was successful. So if you haven't watched that video, you can go back and watch about how to register a user from a component. So in this video, what you are going to focus on is to log in from our React side of our application. We are able to register successfully and we push the user back to the dashboard. So let me iterate, or let me give a summary of what we did. What we did was that we created our action creator to register the user, and our action creator takes in three argument: name, email, and a password. Then we get that one from our form field as that name, email, and a password. So when you trigger this action will go to, let's head over to our action folder here, users, and this is a register. As you can see, it needs three parameters here, and then we make a request to this endpoint, that from our back end, right? And this is a way of posting data to this to the back end using Axios. So it accepts the data and your configuration, and we display the action. So this video, we are going to do the login part. But before I move on, as always I do, I'm not focused on the CSS part of this video. So when you head over to my GitHub repository, I will show you I have created one component under users called login user. This is a dummy or static HTML template for registering user. So when you head over to my GitHub repository, I will provide a link below, and when you head over to commit, as you can see, number 5 is login HTML template. We create this code icon and head over to front end. That is where I have it, SRC, and components, and users, and login user. Yeah, and you can copy the whole component like so, and then you head over to your project. Under the users folder, you can create a file called login, and then you paste the whole of code. So let me label this one as the name of my file to have an so I'll make it login user, and then let me export this one down here as that. Alright, so next, when you head over to our application as it stands, when you click login, doesn't give me the login page. So let's do that one. So let's head over to our app component, our routes. Let's copy one of our routes here, and then let me make this one login, and the component I want to render is login user. I have my auto import correctly. It's not by convention by adding exact to each of the path, but sometimes if you face some bugs, for example, if you have some params here, sometimes it can cause bugs. I used to face that, so to avoid that, I used to add exact to all my path, yeah, and I'm good to go. Alright, so let's head over to our application. Then let's visit /login, and let's see if our component have an error. Submit handler is not defined, I think. Yeah, let me remove this one. So let me save it and refresh it. As you can see, we have the login, and it's doing nothing here, as you can see. So Before we start incorporating the code, I want to give you a hint. Anytime you're developing full stack application using the back end and front end, try to make sure you test your endpoint first before doing it from the front end. So let's head over to our Postman, and here I have an endpoint called localhost/5000 API users login. This is a route you use to log in. So head over to our route backend, under the route and users route. As you can see, we have the login, and there's a path, the login/login. We did this one in the previous videos about the backend stuff. So if you haven't watched, you can go back and watch as well. So we have slash. So when let's head over to our home where it's pointing our server.js file. I think, where is it? Server.js file. This one. And as you can see, it's API user/login. So let me remove this one from here. Backend stuff. Okay. So when you head over to our endpoint, when you click send, it tells me invalid credential because I haven't added any. I'm not passing any data to this endpoint, and our async handler is doing that one. And as you can see, these names are not parts of what are not even on database, so it gives me invalid credentials, right? So let's head over to, I forgot the name I used to register in the previous video. So let's head over to our compass, and let me copy this one, this user br@gmail.com, and I guess the password will be 12345. So let me log in. Exactly. So everything is working perfectly. So when I change the password to 4, invalid credentials, and when I change back to 5 and change this one to whatever I want here, 3, it gives me invalid credentials. So our endpoint is working perfectly. Alright, so let's head over to our front end and do that. So I hope we have the what do you call it, the action to do that. So let's head over to our redux, actions, users, and then users action. Yeah, this is make actual call registration. Scroll down, and we don't have the action to register the user. So that is what we are going to do right now. We are going to create the action first, and then we make the call from the front end, and then we are good to go. So let me make a comment here and say that login action. Alright, so I'll make it a function const. Let me say login user. I used to prefix my action with login user action. That's what I used to do. I prefer to do. And it's a function, and this function requires what? 2 parameters. I need the name of the user and the email. Sorry, the password rather, the email and the password. So I'll say email and then the password to do that, right? So here, because we are making use of async call here, and anytime we are making use of action in Redux, we don't know when our request will be completed, and we don't want to return an undefined data to our reducer. So to avoid that, we make use of a middleware provided by Redux called dispatch. So instead of returning actual data here, I'm going to return a function. Okay, and the function will be, I'll mark this one as async because I want to make use of async await here, and it's a function that takes one argument here, sorry, parameter, and then I'm gonna return my dispatch. So when we have one parameter, we can ignore the curly braces, right? Your bracket. So that's why I'm ignoring that. So here I'll make use of try and catch. I can even ignore try and catch because I'm doing that one. So here I'm going to make the actual call. So first we are going to dispatch an action called user login request, and this one will be helpful for us to have a state of loading. And in our reducer, we can listen to user login requests and we can pass as loading. So let's do that one. So here I'm going to dispatch an action, okay, and all what this function is doing is just return an object, right? And this object will be listening inside a reducer. So here I will say my type will be user login request. I think I have all my constants being created. User login request. I have my auto import. Good. So next we are going to make the actual call. All right. So by convention, I used to have my config. I want to pass the incoming data as JSON to my endpoint. But I used to say that, but Express do that one for us. But that's why I prefer to do it, because sometimes you don't want to pass only the application, but I want to pass some authorization. You know the reason why sometimes I prefer doing this way, right? So here the content type simply means that we are going to pass the incoming request as application as JSON. So /JSON, and next I have my config. It ends here. Sometimes I mistakenly do the right places. So here I'm going to make the actual call to make the request. So let me say const user registered, user login, like that. User login is equal to await and then my axios dot post, making post request, and the endpoint, remember, is /API/users/login, and the second argument is called the data, right? So I'm going to pass as an object and accept the email and the password. All right. I can even quickly pass the whole object here and then just pass as here. So remember, what Axios requires is an object of data that you want to send. So you cannot pass in the single values like this as an object, right? And post Axios endpoint accept three parameters: the endpoint, your data you want to send, and the configuration. So if you do this one, it means that the first one will be the endpoint, correct? Next one will be your data, and the next one will be your configuration, your config file. But so as you can see, this is my config file, the data I want to send back to the server. So instead of that, you have to make it as an object, and the second one will be your config. Exactly. And when I save it, I have this formatted using my prettier. So here, instead of user login, I can destructure what is coming back from the request. And when you destructure, you have on the actual data, you have what is called data here. So that's what I'm going to send back to the request whenever somebody make a request to this endpoint. So here, I assume that when everything goes on well, I'm going to dispatch, an action of type, right? Let me say of type user login success. I have auto import, and I want to send the data, right? So I will say the payload will be the data here. If I don't do this one and I make use of, for example, let's say user login, like I did previously, I have to make use of user login dot data, right? It's same thing, but I used to destructure it from here, and then instead of making dot, I just pass in the actual data here. All right, good. So now our action has been created. So if something goes wrong, we need to dispatch an error, login failed. So here I will say when something goes wrong, I will say type here will be user login fail, and I will send the same payload, and then I will grab error. All right, so I will say indeed if there are error dot response, I'm gonna grab that one, response on that dot data dot message. right? Because I have the actual error coming back from my back end. This one as that on message response, then I have my actual data. That's what I have it here, dot message. All right. So in sometimes we don't have an error here, so let me make it conditional display rendering here. So let me copy all of this one here. Okay, I can't even do this way. Okay, let me copy it. I want to then paste it. So here I will see that when there is actually an error, then I want to grab that as that. All right. So now the whole idea is that, remember guys, that when a user register, we save the user into our local storage, right? And at the same time, when a user logs in, we want to save it to local storage, because when a user register, we want to log in automatically. That's why we save it to local storage when you come here. So we're going to copy the same exact thing here, and then when a user register to, upon success, I will say, so let me even bring the comment here as well, so we can copy or type it from scratch. I did it in the previous video. So we are going to save the user auth, and then we pass as a JSON, so to find and save into our local storage. All right. So now our what do you call it? Action has been created. So next is, let's head over. I want to make it a I don't want to divide into series of videos here. So I want to create a reducer, right, to listen to that. So when you head over to our reducers, so I'll call this one as what, user profile reducer, right? Or let me make it user of. I think I make it as user of. So let me head over to my reducers here, and users, and then users of reducer. Perfect. All right. So here we are going to listen to user login, right, as well. So I can break down this one into pieces. I want to have user of as one reducer here. So here, before this one, on line 22, before the default one, we are going to listen for login user. So here, I'm going to listen to a case of user login request. When we have that event or action being called, what do you want to do? We want to return a state of, say, loading to true, and that's what I want. So remember, look at the pattern here. The same thing we say register, I put loading to true or request. The same thing applies to login as what? Login state to true. So next is that when everything goes on well, that is user login success, right? Auto import here. So if everything goes well, then I have my actual data here. So I will say at this point, loading is false, right? But I don't want to put loading here. So I want to put loading when it's an error. So here, I only want to return the data called user info. Remember, like I told in the previous video about the pattern, when a user register, we have the user info. Remember, it's an object, right? So we can override a value in an object. So for example, if the previous state of this object is 1, right, and then at some point in time we override that data with 2, the actual data will be here will be what? Will be 2, right? So that's what we are doing here right now. So here we will say action.payload. Remember, the action.payload can be error or the actual data that it found. As an error, it will populate it into our state like that. All right. So next is yeah, we are good to go. So what you are going to do next is you have to go to our store. Even our store, we are even listening to that user auth, that is user login. So let's head over to our store and then show you what I'm referring to. Our store is here, right? So let me scroll down. Right now we have our book created, book list, and user login. So this user login comprises of, let me comment here, comprises of login and then register. They have the same data pattern here. So now our action has been created. The last step of the cake is to go back to our component and then call that action. So inside our login component, under component users, login user component here, as a pattern, let's handle the forms here. So here I will grab use state from React ways of doing things, and then use states, and then the first one will be email. I want to move fast here because this is a pattern used to do email, and then the password, right? So use states, and then I will say password, right? Then to be empty string, and then let me capitalize it as set password, like that. So next is our event, our input. So here for the email field, I have a value of email equal to email here, and then on change, the on change will be a normal function here, and I have my event, and then I will call my set email, and in there I have the event being type, which is the input dot value, and I have that, right? And let's head over to our input field here for that value, and then it will be password, like that, and then the on change will be, that's binding, and on change here I will have my event inside my anonymous function here, and I will set password, and then I will say e.target.value. Okay, so now we have it. Let's create our submit handler. Let me say submit handler, and I will say const login user submit handler. It's a long sentence though. And then here I will have my event, and then I will say e.prevent default. This is React way of doing things, right? So here let me console log something and say console log login, and then let's pass this login action function to our form here as on submit, which is giving us as login user submit handler. Save it, and then let's head over to our browser and try it, whether we have that function, right, being called. So inside my console, let me clear everything from here, and then let me try to console log this one. Yeah, as you can see, I have login, so it means that our function is what, working perfectly, as you can see. So now we can console log the whole of the state. So let me say my email and then the password, right? So let me do that. So let me have whatever password you type in here, and as you can see, I have it exactly. So now this what our action need. When you head over to our action creator, it needs what, login, email, and password. The same thing applies to our endpoint. When it comes here, it needs what, email and password, and we are getting that one from the front end. So what we need is we have to pass the data to this action, login user action, then user action will send that one to our endpoint to create, right? So let's head over to our components and then grab something from React redux, which is the React redux, which is use dispatch, and then let me grab my login user action here. Let me think if I have the auto import here, login user. So if you don't have it, you can go back to the action again, and then you can, if you want to have the auto import, oh sorry, I have not even exported it. So here will be login user action. So let me head over to my component here, and then user login action. I'm gonna get and save it, and then login user action. Now, so let me try again. So if you don't have the auto import, what you can do is that you can delete one the endpoint, text, save it, and go back again, and then let me have login user action. Yes, still user login user action. No, so let me do that one manually. So import, let me grab from dot I think one more step, redux here, and then in there have my actions, and then under action users I have the users action, and I'll grab login user action. So I want to have an instance of the redux dispatch. Let me grab here as what, use dispatch as a function call here like that. So I just get a variable and assign to my dispatch action. So this have the ability to dispatch my action. So here, where do we need, where can we get the data from? Inside our login register here. So here we can say dispatch, and we dispatch what? Login user action. Remember, even you got IntelliSense, it needs an email and a password. So as a function, the first argument parameter is what? Email, and email is for my state. The next one will be what? Password. Exactly. So we are good to go. So let's try that here from our front end here. So let me have the React Dev extension 2. Let me put it into one tab here so that we can visualize what is going on clearly. So we're going to dispatch an action, and you can see it here is our dev2 here. Alright, so let's try. So here, the email I used was, is it br whatever at gmail.com, and the password is 12345. Register, and then let me head over to my Redux dev2. As we can see, user login success. Exactly. When head over to our state, we have user login success. Perfect, right? So here we have it done. So let's try to log in with a wrong password. So let me say whatever, save it. Let me look at the action, user login field. As for the data is coming from invalid credentials, coming back from our back end. So guys, this is how we use React Redux to log in a user. The next video, we will populate the user details here. For example, so and so you have logged in successfully or whatever. So guys, this is how we do it. The next video, we'll continue from here. Thanks for watching.